Hitman Absolution is commonly considered to be the series' black sheep, and understandably so. The open-ended murder puzzles Hitman is best known for have made room for linear sneaking segments, and when there is an assassination, the targets tend to be forgettable thugs or die in scripted sequences. So not only is Absolution's gameplay quite different from the previous games, it also isn't very good at making you feel like a hitman. But there is one thing Absolution does better than any other game I've tried. It makes you feel like a fugitive. In particular, I'm talking about the mission titled Run for Your Life. As the mission begins, 47 has gotten caught sneaking into a hotel room and his target staying in the room has recognized him, murdered a maid, framed 47 for murder, set the room on fire and called the cops. Somehow, that's going to make him rich.
I'll tell you, I don't ordinarily yeehaw, but this is a fucking yeehaw!
Yeah, the writing in Absolution is complete B-movie schlock. Love it or hate it, the events leading up to the mission make little to no sense, but the premise itself is clear. The police are at the door and they know who they're looking for, so it's time for 47 to make an exit. The mission consists of 3 major checkpoints: the abandoned library, the weed-filled apartments of Shangri-La, and the busy train station. There are also 2 smaller checkpoints, Burning Hotel and Pigeon Coop, which are mostly used to get 47 to the main areas. Burning Hotel opens the mission with a short cinematic moment that sets the mood and gives a sense of urgency, and follows it up with a brief gameplay section on the roof. This is the first time smoke is introduced as a mechanic, limiting visibility for both 47 and his enemies. While the smoke adds some flavor to the short checkpoint, I think the main purpose of this section is to give the player access to a police uniform before the first main checkpoint. Speaking of uniforms, Absolution is often criticized for its disguise mechanics, which make anyone wearing the same outfit as you an enforcer who can blow your cover. It does feel off when you're disguised as a street cook in Chinatown or a goon with a full face mask, but the system actually works remarkably well in Run for Your Life. The only disguise available is the police uniform, and since you're already being hunted, it makes sense for the cops to be suspicious. After the burning hotel comes the dark and run-down library. Without civilians present, the police are seizing their advantage with an aggressive approach.
I want this fucking place turned upside down!
The library halls are spacious, and when keeping a distance to the enemies isn't enough, the bookshelves and counters offer good cover. Mechanically, the area is not that remarkable, but it really doesn't need to be, as it's only the first of the 3 main checkpoints. That said, the cops do talk about and eventually turn on the lights, which makes me wonder if darkness was considered as a mechanic at some point during development. But that's pure speculation on my part. The checkpoint works very well as it is, and shadow-based gameplay would likely feel out of place anyway. The library exit leads back to the Chicago rooftops, and to the infamous helicopter scene in the Pigeon Coop. This checkpoint honestly feels a bit out of place, but to its credit it does mix up the pacing of the mission without overstaying its welcome. The way the helicopter watches over the area also adds a small twist, and its presence fits well into the manhunt theme. The mood in the apartments of Shangri-La is a stark contrast to the abandoned library. The look is more bright and colorful, and there's even a bit of comedy to the characters. While the large halls have been replaced by narrow corridors and small apartments, the civilian presence has also forced the police to slow down their approach.
Hey, listen, Cheats, this ain't a bust. The guy we're looking for is extremely dangerous.
We're all dangerous, man. We're all naked under our clothes, and our animal hearts beat with the same blood.
Compared to the library, the apartments have a lot more moving parts to interact with, and they also introduce another new mechanic, hiding in foliage. Like the smoke previously, the cannabis farm is not the focus of the area, but works to spice the mission up a bit more. The elevator is used to reach the final checkpoint, the crowded train station. I'm not sure the way the apartment building's front door leads straight to the train station follows typical Chicago architecture, but it doesn't make the station itself any less remarkable. The police have stopped the train, so the station is full of civilians, and among those civilians are officers looking for 47. Unlike the smoke and the foliage, this is not the first checkpoint in the game with hiding in crowds as a mechanic, but this time the mechanic is not just a little twist, but the centerpiece of the entire checkpoint. The way the cops blend in with the crowd and make the player pay more attention is what really sells the entire crowd system and elevates it far above a simple gimmick. It creates a game of cat and mouse where the player is looking for the enemies as much as the enemies are looking for 47. While the platforms themselves are large and disappearing into the crowd is not a problem, the overpass between the platforms is narrow and requires a more careful approach to get through. At the very end there's a timed section at the platform where 47 has to evade the cops until a train arrives. It's not a difficult challenge, but still has a tense atmosphere and is a fitting end to the mission. I believe the train station to be the single most noteworthy section in the game, and maybe one of the greatest moments in stealth games in general. This is what the previous checkpoints have been building up to. From the manhunt in the empty library, to the raids in the occupied apartments, finally to the blockade at the busy train station. The way 47's escape progresses feels logical. It starts with the worst possible situation, but with every step the advantage shifts to favor him more. Absolution was never going to be a quote-unquote good sequel to the classic Hitman games, and I think its biggest mistake was trying to be that anyway. Its strengths don't lie in infiltrating high security areas unnoticed, but in disappearing after things have already gone wrong. Understandably, it's not what Hitman fans wanted, but I'm glad it exists and has something as special as Run for Your Life in it. Thank you for watching. I have a lot of opinions on Hitman and stealth games in general, and I would like to share them, but making videos like this doesn't come naturally to me, and I kinda have to kick myself to get around to it, so any feedback would be appreciated. Just letting me know if I'm getting my point across would help a lot.